How to Read Literature Like a Professor, Chapters 10 and 11. So this chapter is basically stating that you should never stand next to the hero or the protagonist because more likely than not, the best friend or the closest person next to the hero ends up dying. Death of a character near the hero is used to add depth to the protagonist. This is shown in the Iliad, where Patroclus is Achilles' best friend since boyhood. He wears Achilles' armor in battle and is killed as Achilles. This was necessary for Achilles to get his new armor made from the gods, to become the greatest hero ever in the Greeks' mind. It's also shown in The Great Gatsby, where Nick Carraway realizes that once Gatsby died, that Nick needed to get away from the materialistic world and he leaves town to better himself. Characters are not real people. Foster emphasizes on this greatly, that they are simply figments of the author's imagination and the reader's imagination. And even though characters may be based on a real person, they should not go into play on how you perceive that character. Flat characters versus round characters, also known as static versus dynamic. Flat characters are more simplistic and play an instrumental role on influencing the round characters or the protagonists. The second-hand man or best friend sometimes, or it could be a flat character or round character, but it basically serves the same purpose as a flat character, where it plays a vital role in the round character's growth. So like I said, static characters are used as plot devices, while dynamic characters are the ones that you usually form a better connection to, and static characters are used to bring in more depth into the dynamic characters or the protagonist in the story. With the intent for authors, it's necessary to have flat characters and concerns of length, because if every character was round, the novel would be 10 times longer if you had to give a backstory to every character and make them round. Chapter 11, More Than It's Gonna Hurt You, concerning violence. So Foster then goes on to explain that violence in literature holds more meaning, like violence in real life. It just is, while violence in literature, while still being literal, it could be symbolic and romantic or allegorical. Rather than in real life, it's just shoved off as aggression and doesn't contain any meaning beyond itself. Violence is everywhere in literature, and it's also shown in Robert Frost's poem Out Out. And Foster explains that the poem could just be taken as a cautionary tale of a child labor and power tools, but Frost uses violence to emphasize our status as orphans, frightened and alone, as we face our mortality in a cold and silent universe. And death remains an amazing plot device, and it tears apart the actions and the death behind it, and it shows a bigger picture. It's explained by Foster that violence in literature is not an accident. The author, everything that happens is intended, and the meaning of violent acts can be unclear to a lot of readers because violence in real life usually holds no meaning, but it goes to show that it serves as a reason to look farther into the symbols and the illusions. And this is shown throughout both chapters 10 and 11 with many examples of how death serves a purpose in making the plot deeper.